Hey, what's up guys? Let's talk about Fooly Cooly Progressive episodes 5 and 6. Since I've waited about 2 months to finally cover a video on these ones, I'm sorry for those of you that were following it and have been wondering why this video has taken so long. I don't really have a clear answer for that. Maybe I just need some time to process it. I know I've been very busy and a lot of things have come up, which is another reason I haven't been able to get out as much videos as I would like to. But nonetheless, now that we have Fooly Cooly Alternative that's just aired the first 2 episodes, I really should wrap this one up. So I wanted to focus on these 2 episodes as well as the season as a whole. It doesn't quite match the level of the first and classic Fooly Cooly, but it did about as good of a job that I could have truly expected. I've now seen every episode of this season 2 to 3 times, and I do feel rewatching the series back to back really does improve the overall enjoyment of the show. Which is one of the biggest differences between this and the classic Fooly Cooly, is that more of the episodes in that series stand alone a bit more. Where here it feels like a long continuous series with a few moments of perhaps cliffhangers at the end of several episodes. Nothing wrong with that per se, but it makes this one much more interesting when you watch it back to back, which is why I think it was really cool that Japan actually got a full theatrical release of every episode in one kind of full-length film. Maybe one day we'll get something like that over here, who knows. Be warned, from this point on, the rest of the video will contain spoilers for these 2 episodes as well as the series. Now, as far as episodes go, episode 5 was one of my favorites simply because of the animation. Here in this episode, which is titled Fool on the Planet, we see some really beautiful, gorgeous animation. From the opening sequence that was done by a legendary animator who I don't know the name off the top of my head, but I have seen his work done in other things such as Halo Legends. It resembles a beautiful watercolor-like feel. But then we get into the actual episode, which has this really edgy kind of half sketch, half just unfinished, kind of not quite so polished look that is just really cool. I absolutely love this aspect, and if I'm being honest, I really hope the whole series looked like this. The episode itself had some good moments. I really enjoyed the music that was featured as always. We got some classic songs from the original Fooly Cooly, like I Think I Can from the Pillows, as well as Yes, more Kanti, and a lot of interesting things developing on his end. I enjoyed all the moments with Haruko simply pretending to be pregnant after she had just devoured Jinyu, so she's really just digesting. I wasn't quite as into some of the other elements with, say, the theme park thing going on the side, but I do feel it added an interesting dynamic to the story that was later concluded in episode 6. However, I really enjoyed the manga style animation, which was kind of a callback to the original first episode of the first series, yet also different in the presentation style, which was really cool. What I thought worked the best possibly was the thing with Hidomi, as she kind of gets this like cyborg look after what happens when she overflows after seeing Ide and Haruko. The ending animation was very cool when she develops this kind of crazy like robot type arm thing and just launches it at Haruko. Then she starts chasing her and you see this roller coaster in the background. That sequence was just great. Overall, this was one of the better episodes to me simply because of the animation, but I'd say it didn't quite match the 4th one overall for just sheer awesomeness in the music and probably the best fight sequence in Progressive. Now, in episode 6, which is called Our Running, we got the final conclusion to a lot of things going on. And I will say the shift back in animation to the previous episodes actually kind of took me out of it a little bit. It didn't quite like that change. And while I did enjoy this episode overall, I did feel it was a little bit disappointing as far as like a finale episode goes. There's just a lot going on and not enough time to fully flesh it all out. We get some great backstory about Hidomi and what happened with her father and what her mother is doing with the cafe. I enjoyed those moments, but it's told in a way that just kind of goes by really quickly. I also like the side character dynamic with Mori and Aiko, which are 2 characters the more I rewatch I do gain a bigger appreciation for. In fact, that's one thing I will say. All of the characters in the show at first were not too special to me, but when you see them again and rewatch certain sequences, that things you might not have caught before, I really like that dynamic of the series. Especially with a character like Jinyu, who's got some really great lines that start to come back and are revisited at the end of this episode. Probably the best thing about this episode was seeing a side of Haruko we've never really seen, which is her in a very sad, emotional state. They had some nice music playing in that part, and it really just shows you that she's just after something that she can't obtain, doesn't care, but You know, it makes you kind of feel bad for her at the same time, especially for those of us who've been invested in this series since the very beginning. But of course, all ends well and she's off to look for Adamisk all over again. So I will say this, while Progressive isn't as good as the classic Fooly Cooly that we all know and love, I highly recommend rewatching it and watching it in one sitting. Probably my biggest flaw about this series, to be honest, wasn't really at its fault, but with the way it was produced and some of the sound being a little too low, especially the music. And at times the dialogue is a little too hard to hear. My TV has this function that lets me replay certain scenes and captions will come on, and there are parts where I never heard these lines being spoken and realized there were all these words I wasn't hearing the first time around. I'm really hoping in the future there's a great release on Blu-ray where this issue will be fixed. Until then, I will say that was kind of my biggest gripe, to be honest. But overall, I found Progressive to be a very enjoyable show. I enjoyed the characters of Hidomi, Ide, Mori, Marco, Jinyu, all of them. I must not forget Eye Patch as well as Masurao, who, as many of us expected, was related to that good old Commander Amuro. I just couldn't trust those eyebrows.
Where are my eyebrows?
Well, there you have it, guys. This series is, of course, a diligent pick, and I would highly recommend giving it a chance if you haven't seen it. I hope I didn't spoil too much for you, though, for those of you who are just kind of watching this because you want to watch one of my videos. I'm hoping to get back into the swing of things and be a bit more consistent than I have been lately. I can't wait to check out Fooly Cooly Alternative very soon, as well as share some other reviews that I've been looking forward to doing. As always, if you enjoyed the review, subscribe to my channel while this video ends and send me a thumbs up before you go. Thanks for watching and stay diligent.